Hello and welcome back to the NFT-Developer Diaries series. My name is still Kyle and I'm still the creator and the original person behind the BooCrew CNFT universe. And I'm still happy to be partnered with NFT-MAKER Pro to create this series. In this episode, we're going to be continuing with the getting started phase. And this is going to be all about your project choice, the software you're going to need, how you're going to build it, creating the art and all that type of thinking. Without further ado, the first thing with any project, and especially in this space, is you want to be thinking about the long term. I don't mean really long. I don't mean like years and years in advance, but you at least want to know where you want to be going with this, on what you're trying to achieve. As I say, it doesn't mean super far in the future, but have you got really technical plans to push the space forward, or is it just based around the art, just the images? Maybe it's another kind of profile picture type drop that we've seen from many creators. And that's absolutely fine. What is important though is that you think about the long term. Give you an example, the BooCrew roadmap here we've got on the website. You can see started off with the initial designs, the art generation, etc. And then of course the initial phase was all about launching those initial images. Over time, we're then coming up for the legendary boos, of which some are animated. So again, that's pushing the plan, pushing it further, and then slightly further off into the future. And this is as far as we've really gone so far, into January 2022, is about attempting to create this fusion process here. And this is what I mean. You want to think about certainly the next few months. What do you want to achieve? And be honest, right? Don't put things in your roadmap that you have no intention of doing, because people won't like that, right? And it's really important to get that across. Key thing to add here is that if you are thinking about using NFTs for a game, and you're going to initially just release the art, I'd really recommend thinking like a year ahead before you do it. What you don't want to do is release loads of this art. Maybe they've all got different facial expressions or different hats. And then when you go to make the game, they're kind of like not related. Do you know what I mean? So, if you want the characters in the game to be able to like smile, do you really want that to mean someone needs to buy an NFT that's smiling to do that? Or, okay, maybe not, but then why have that NFT out on the market? So again, lots to think about. Finally, the last thing I'll add on this is that you want to be thinking at this stage as well about the limitations of your hardware. So you may have an amazing computer that can, render 3D art or allow you to edit massive, like 50 megapixel photos, or you might not have that. So think about what your computer can do and if that affects your project. Now, obviously, over time, you can, upgrade your kit and that kind of thing. I'm not saying limit your whole project by that. All I mean is, it's worth thinking about this in advance, because you don't want to commit to a 10,000 NFT project and then find out that it will take your computer 10 days to generate all that art. That's a tricky position to be in. So yeah, consider that as well. I did with BooCrew. Now my computer can handle more than this, but part of the benefit of going for the pixel art was that I didn't need to have huge image files. And I knew my computer could do it, right? It can do more. And in all honesty, most of the proceeds, in fact, currently all of it from BooCrew, I am putting towards a new, far better computer so that I can push and do this stuff in here. So again, think about that. It's all part of the roadmap. And you've got to remember, this is a project that you're looking to deliver, okay? So think as long-term as you can, but make sure you can have fun in the short term and, deliver some good stuff. At the moment, the space is mainly focused on two areas: art primarily, and then gaming. If you're planning to create a profile picture project, that's absolutely fine. The key thing is to think about the art style, the type, the theme. How many of them do you want to mint? Are you minting tens of thousands, or are you thinking it's going to be a smaller collection? And there's pros and cons to that affect how you're going to design the software that you need to write. So for example, if you're only going to create 50 unique pieces, you might not want to create some software to assemble them, right? You might literally want to draw them individually. Equally, if you're going to create thousands, perhaps it's more of the software route that, similar to what I've done for BooCrew. And again, you can take pointers on how I did that from here, but equally, you may even be able to think of better ways to code it. And that's absolutely great. That's probably even better than just following along exactly what I do. But I hope to give you a rough idea of the kind of thinking you need to do that. Next thing you want to decide is your main art style. So for BooCrew and for most projects, that's going to be 2D. So a flat 2D image. And what I would say is these are complexity-wise the simplest to do. It's what we're going to be focusing on for this project, but you can apply that logic across the board. And most computers are going to be able to generate them. The next one is 3D. I've got a 3D image here. A lot of projects are building 3D art designs, so you could imagine, scaling up BooCrew at some point, making them 3-dimensional instead of that 2D flatness. Again, if you've got skills in 3D and that's where you want to take your project, that could be super cool. They're not that common, so think about it. The next type of project is AI-based or generative in another way. This is an example of what's called a deep dream. And yeah, essentially what this is a computer's been asked to, the computer's learned about how one art style is formed, and it's been asked to project that onto another image. And you can see the results of that are actually quite amazing in some cases. Lovely image here. By the way, the AI option here and the 3D one, they're not NFT projects, but they're just some art I found on a good site called Pixabay. So if you want to support the artist, they are listed here. Finally, what about something different? Are you going to do, physical art? Maybe you're going to literally paint them. Maybe it's real paintings. Maybe it's going to be photographs. I've even seen models on here. There's all kinds of things you can do. But again, think about your theme. Think about what you want to do with it long term. For BooCrew, I had kind of 3 key things I wanted to be across, right? So the first one was, I noticed a lot of people outside of the Cardano ecosystem were calling Cardano a ghost chain. And, not very nice. But I thought it'd be quite funny to then, okay, fine, it's a ghost chain. I'll fill it up with ghosts then. All right, I thought that was quite funny. And I thought, in all fairness, I thought it'd be quite a good marketing idea because, people support Cardano. They will get behind what I'm trying to do, right? Equally, Halloween was coming up, and I believe this is the case. And again, if someone can correct me, but I believe BooCrew was the original Halloween-themed NFT collection on Cardano. So I always had Halloween in mind when I was doing it, even though I was building it, a couple of months beforehand. And the idea of this was that I really like the Halloween festival. So it's something I could get passionate about and care about. Finally, ghosts are quite a flexible asset, right? So they've got a lot of cool elements to them, such as they can fly, they're see-through, they can go through things, they can, warp around. They're very quite powerful. And what that meant was, as I developed the concept, I've got room in the future to work on those elements. But equally, I don't have to do that, right? There's nothing in my roadmap at the minute about a game, and that's fine, But I've got the room to do it. It's flexible, and that's a really good thing to think about. As you can probably tell from me making these series, it's as much as me, it's like a learning experience to try and help the community as well, right? I love learning about software and tech, and I've always found the best way to learn is to try it. It certainly works really well for me. And this was kind of my way of doing that. Finally, I'll say I also went with kind of a lot of the art is sort of pixel art. So there's some, like, you might have seen CryptoPunks on Ethereum. I think there's an AdaPunks. There's a lot of these like very, very low resolution images out there. And part of the reason for that is that it looks cool. The other part is that I guess really, really low resolution stuff is quite easy to draw. But above all else, you need to think about the computer you have. Now, because these images are 256 by 256, they're not that taxing on the system to generate. Remember, I had to generate 10,000 of them. And so it was kind of helpful for them to be low resolution. If you're just trying to learn how to do things, you don't want to make extra parts of the thing. You don't want to overstress the situation. So think about that. Equally, if we're being very, very, I would say, pure about the way we think about it, the more high resolution art is probably going to be more detailed. And I think a lot of people will find that better. But equally, there's a big market out there. People love these simple, cheeky designs. So, a lot to think about. And for now, I'll leave you with that. The next part is about making the art. So for this, we need to think generatively. And again, I'm going to assume you are trying to make a project that is, similar to the profile picture ones, where you're generating large numbers of randomized, unique art pieces based on creating certain elements. And that way you can have different rarity tiers and things like that. At its core, and you may have already kind of worked this out, but the way it works is you have the individual elements, and then when they're combined together, they create this. All right. What that means is that you need some software, first of all, to draw or manipulate images on their own. And then you need some other software to put them together. For me, I chose GIMP to draw the elements. So I think it's GNU image manipulation something. It's very good. It's free software. And yeah, you can see what it does here. I then used Python in the PyCharm IDE to actually assemble it. And essentially, if we go back here, you can see what's happening is it's actually a bit more complex. Like the eyes and the mouth are all individual layers. But essentially, we have, starting from the furthest element back from the user point of view, which is the background, we then layer on top of that the different elements. So starting off with the ghost base, so the body, then the eyes, the mouth, and the hat. And that's essentially how it works. So we're literally just drawing those elements on top of each other from a base set that we've drawn by hand. All right, and that's how you get the generative art. What I'm going to be doing in this series is really going into detail about how you, for example, you might be thinking, well, how do I line these up? Great question. We'll get really into detail on that. How do we get the code to actually create images? Okay, how do we save them? How do we store them properly? And I'll go through everything I can in terms of that detail for you so that you've got a coherent project. I am aware that there are some open source code out there that will do this for you. I'm not sure whether it's optimized to use for the NFT-MAKER Pro. I don't know. I didn't do it. I wrote all of the software myself. Obviously I use Stack Overflow to get some of the methods, but I created it by hand specifically for my project. I would say, as with all things, there's pros and cons, but the more you write, the more you'll probably learn from it if you need to learn. For people who are out there really experienced though, who just want to know the key things about NFT-MAKER Pro, we'll get through that as well. All right. Finally, the last thing to talk about is vending the art. So once you've got it all done, once everything's created and it's on NFT-MAKER Pro and the backend set up, you're going to need some web hosting to actually host your website. All right. The difference this time is you can't, as far as I know, use WordPress. You can't just create a WordPress site and do it that way, because you need to be able to get to the server backend and code it. The reason for that, and again, there may be a way to do this in WordPress, I'm not sure, but you see here on the bottom, we've got the server on the left is hosting my web page, and then there's this server on the right, which is NFT-MAKER Pro. And to call the API, so to make those API calls at NFT-MAKER Pro, you have to make them from the backend. So there's something called CORS policy, which is built into most browsers, and it essentially stops the user front end from making API calls. So it's really important that you understand that you're going to need to do that to get this project running. And if you're happy with that and how that's going to go, that's great. If not, I would say continue watching, because we'll break down exactly how that's done, and then you can decide if that's something you want to attempt. For now though, thank you very much for your time. In the next episode, we're going to do a deep dive into exactly how we create the art, starting with the base layers, and I'll see you in there. Thank you.